Section 31 of Great Men and Famous Women, Volume 6. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Donald Warren. Great Men and Famous Women, Volume 6, by Charles F. Horne, General George A. Custer, by Eldridge S. Brooks, 1839 to 1876. Daring is always popular. The dashing fighter outranks the tactician and takes precedence over the engineer when the people's plaudits for valor fill the air. To be the beau sabreur of the army, as was Murat in Napoleon's day, and as Custer was in Grant's, it is as glorious as it is dramatic, as inspiring as it is picturesque. There were, in fact, many points of resemblance between these two dashing cavalry leaders, Murat, the Frenchman, and Custer, the American. Both smelled powder as the aides-de-camp of their chiefs. Both rose rapidly from grade to grade and from rank to rank until they stood at the top. Both labored at the end under the burden of criticism and detraction, and both met their death through a mistake and fell like brave and gallant soldiers. George Armstrong Custer was born in New Rumley in the state of Ohio on December 5, 1839. His father was a blacksmith and farmer of German stock, a descendant of Hessian officer named Kutzu, one among many who came to conquer and remained to live and die as citizens of the land they had failed to subjugate. Young Custer was educated in the district school of New Rumley and in the academy at Monroe in Michigan, where he went in 1849 to live with his sister Lydia. Returning to Ohio, he taught school for a year or more in Hopedale, near New Rumley, and in 1857 was able to see his boyish dream come true, and as a lad of 17 entered the United States Military Academy at West Point. Cadet Custer graduated from West Point in 1861 and hurried to the front at once, eager for service, for the war between the states had begun. He was made bearer of dispatches by General Scott. He fought at Bull Run as lieutenant in the 2nd United States Cavalry, to which he had been assigned. He conducted successfully balloon reconnaissance along the Confederate lines, and so inspired General McClellan by his energy, courage, and persistence that he was appointed aide-de-camp to the general with the rank of captain. For his dash and daring in the Rappahannock battles, he was advanced by speedy promotions to the rank of Brigadier General of Volunteers. His commission dated from June 1863, just 1 year after his appointment as aide-de-camp to McClellan. He won his brevet as major in the regular army for his brilliant leadership of cavalry at Gettysburg. He had a horse shot under him while heading the charge at Culpeper, and gained his brevet as lieutenant colonel of regulars for his gallantry in Sheridan's lights about Richmond in the spring of 1864. He won renown and glory at Sheridan's famous raid on Richmond by saving his brigade colors at the Battle of Trevilian Station, and in September 1864 his dashing valor at Winchester procured him his brevet as colonel of regulars and the volunteer rank of major general. He won the Battle of Woodstock by a wonderful cavalry engagement, routing the enemy whom he drove for 26 miles and capturing all their guns save one. In the bloody Battle of Cedar Creek, he fought at the head of the 3rd Division of Cavalry from start to finish, helping to turn a rout into a victory and recapturing all the guns and colors the Union troops had lost early in the action, besides taking all the Confederate flags and cannon. At Waynesboro, in the spring of 1865, still leading the 3rd Division, he won the day unaided. He captured 1,600 prisoners with all the enemy's camp, equipage, guns, and colors, and then turning for another onset, Custer drove the Confederate General Early from the field, destroying his command, scattering his army, and ending the campaign, so far as Early's army was concerned. For his brilliant engagement and for his bravery at the Battle of Five Forks and Dinwiddie Courthouse, on April 1, 1865, Custer was breveted Brigadier General in the regular army, and, as he had won the first colors taken by the Army of the Potomac in 1862, so in 1865 He received the first flag of truce when the end at last came, and was present at the historic surrender at Appomattox. Then he secured his last promotion. He was brevetted Major General in the regular army and appointed Major General of Volunteers. It was a brilliant and exceptional record. He had fought in all the battles of the Army of the Potomac, save one. He was Sheridan's most trusted and favored cavalry officer. In less than 4 years he had advanced from captain of volunteers to major general, and from lieutenant to major general in the regular army. He was but 26 when the war closed, and all his promotions had been won by his bravery, his dash, his daring, and his good leadership. During the last 6 months of the war, the 3rd Division of Cavalry, led by Custer, captured in open fight over 100 pieces of artillery, 65 battle flags, and 10,000 prisoners. It was a record of which any soldier might be proud, and it made Custer at once the idol of his hard-working troopers and one of the popular heroes of the day. At the great review in Washington, he rode near the head of the parade, leading what was popularly called the most gallant cavalry division of the age, greeted with cheers and flowers along the line of march. Custer's active service did not close with the war. He was sent to Texas as commander of a cavalry division, and in November 1865 was made chief of cavalry. In February 1866, he was mustered out of the service as Major General of Volunteers and became again captain in the regular army on leave. President Johnson denied him the leave of absence he asked for to fight under Juarez in Mexico against Maximilian the usurper, and in July 1866 he received his commission as lieutenant colonel of the newly formed 7th Cavalry, United States Army, the regiment that he made into Indian fighters and served with until the end. In November 1866, he joined his regiment at Fort Riley and was soon fighting Indians on the plains. He utterly defeated the hostile Cheyennes, Arapahoes, and Kiowas at the Battle of the Washita in the Indian Territory in November 1871. He was on post duty in Kentucky until 1873, and then again on the plains, where on August 4, 1873, he whipped a hostile Sioux at the Battle of Tongue River in the Yellowstone country, and again on the 11th of the same month at the Battle of the Bighorn. In the summer of 1874, he led an expedition of exploration and discovery into the Black Hills in the Dakota country, and in May 1876 led his regiment in what proved to be his last campaign, a march against the hostile Sioux in the unexplored region of the Little Bighorn. Here, with less than 300 men, he faced the Confederated Sioux, numbering thousands of warriors, and in a desperate and characteristic engagement closed the record of a life of brilliant effort and daring by standing at bay against the tremendous odds of 10-1 until he and his entire command fell to a man, fighting desperately to the end. Custer was gallant, but sometimes indiscreet. He was daring, but often careless of consequences, and when in positions of command, he was apt to be impatient of cowardice and of greed. So he raised up enemies for himself, and twice these enemies sought and nearly accomplished his downfall. His last campaign was fought under the burden of an apparent official censure, galling to a man of Custer's impetuous nature, all the more so as he knew it to be unmerited and unjust. There is little doubt that this weight of wrong endangered a spirit of recklessness, foreign even to his daring nature, and led him to take risks he would not otherwise have accepted, simply because he felt the necessity for action and believed that through valor would come his speediest vindication. Had he been supported by those he relied upon, he might, even in the face of the overpowering odds marshaled against him, have come off victorious instead of dying in unnecessary sacrifice like another Roland, and if we accept the legends at just Roland's age, it is because that tragic ending of a valiant life was, viewed from the picturesque standpoint, its logical and dramatic conclusion, that American tradition and popular applause will, in the years to come, remember Custer not so much for the dash at Winchester, the daring at Waynesboro, or the valor at Five Forks, as for his immortal stand on the banks of the Little Bighorn when he and his brave troopers went down in death together. General Custer was the born soldier in face and figure, lithe, broad-shouldered, and sinewy in frame, nearly 6 feet in height, blue-eyed and golden-haired. He was the beau ideal cavalry leader, alert, active, ready, and responsive, with an eye to all details, a love for the picturesque in bearing and equipment, of great endurance, abstemious, healthy and strong, and as much at home in the saddle and with the saber as in his own little house in Monroe, or by his blazing campfire. He married in February 1864 Elizabeth Bacon, a daughter of Judge Daniel S. Bacon of Monroe. For 10 years his wife was his constant companion in camp and in frontier service, and she has written many sketches of his active life in the saddle and his characteristics as soldier and as man. General Custer, at the time of his death, was engaged on a series of war memoirs, and his articles on frontier life and army experiences found ready acceptance and wide favor. He was undoubtedly America's best cavalry leader and won a place as a perfect general of horse beside the world's dashing war riders from Hannibal's Thunderbolt, Mago the Carthaginian, to Maurice of Nassau, and the Golden Eagle, Marat the Frenchman. 14 of the 37 years he lived were spent in actual service in the camp or on the battlefield. He was a brigadier general at 23 and a major general at 25. In the height of his popularity and his phenomenal success as a cavalry leader, he was a picturesque and familiar figure to friend and foe alike, as in his broad cavalier's hat, his gold bedizened jacket, and high cavalry boots, with his long hair streaming in the wind, he would ride like a tornado to the accompaniment of Gary Owen, his favorite battle air, carrying all before him, a subject worthy the pencil of a Van Dyke, the very type of the dashing trooper of romance. But that there was a method in his dash and a practical element in his daring, even the generals he outranked and the civilians who tried to direct him would admit. And to be the choice of McClellan and the favorite of Sheridan gave the assurance of worth to his leadership and of value to his valor. In 1877, Custer's remains were removed to the graveyard at West Point from the battlefield of the Little Bighorn, where he had first been buried, amid the fallen heroes of his own brave band. In 1879, the government made the battleground where Custer met his death a national cemetery, and raised a monument, upon which appeared the names and rank of all those who fell in that needless and fatal but heroic fight. End of section 31.